Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Hello and welcome tonight. Barely 3 months to the off-cycle elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states, Progressive Governors Forum converge on Abuja to perfect plans for the exercise as they meet with party's national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje. Ebonyi State Governorship Election Tribunal reserves judgment in the petition filed by the candidates of the PDP and APGA against the election of Governor Francis Nwifuru. Good times await social entrepreneurs as Channels Media Group launches Fund It Forward, a business reality show designed to nurture the next generation of social enterprises driven by Nigerian youths. And Maui's emergency management chief quits after his agency's failure to activate its alarm system in the Hawaii wildfires that left over 100 people dead.
On business news tonight, over 11,500 CNG cars to be manufactured locally as President Tinubu approves establishment of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative.
On sports news tonight, as the 2023 Women's World Cup comes to an end on Sunday, FIFA President Gianni Infantino describes it as the best, having generated over $570 million in revenue.
And from the nation's capital, United Nations calls for protection of local and foreign humanitarian workers to boost provision of support for vulnerable persons affected by insurgency as it marks World Humanitarian Day.
We begin with politics ahead of the off-cycle elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states. Governors of the All Progressives Congress today met with the national chairman of the party, Abdullahi Ganduje, in Abuja as they fine-tune plans for the polls. The governorship candidate of the APC in Bayelsa State, Mr. Timipre Silva, the Imo State governor and chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, Senator Hope Uzodimma, were present at the meeting alongside other APC governors. Governor Uzodimma later briefed journalists on the highlights of their discussion.
You know, Progressive Governors Forum is a family. The family of the largest party in Africa, All Progressive Congress. We had our meetings, part of our consultations, and also used the opportunity to listen to our national chairman, who came to brief us on the activities of the party and the proposed reforms intended to carry out in the party. So it was just a family discussion. Part of our discussion, like I told you, was the briefing from the chairman. And inclusive is also preparation for the upcoming governorship election in 3 states.
And to the courts now, the Ebonyi State Governorship Election Tribunal sitting in Abuja has reserved judgment in the petition filed by the candidates of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Mr. Ifeanyi Odi, and that of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, Professor Bernard Odo, after all the parties adopted their written addresses. The candidates of the PDP and APGA are challenging the declaration of the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Francis Nwifuru, as the winner of the March 2023 governorship election.
It's the final stage before judgment will be served in the Ebonyi State Governorship Election Tribunal as parties adopt their written addresses. Counsel to the governor, Mr. Francis Nwifuru, as well as those of the two petitioners, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, are all in court to adopt their written addresses. The petitioners are challenging the declaration of Mr. Francis Nwifuru as the winner of the March governorship elections in the states. They allege that the governor was not properly sponsored by his party, as he was still a member of the PDP at the time of the election.
Today, the parties have adopted their final written addresses. And as you can say, the issue of non-qualification of the man returned by INEC is a very key issue. And one thing that is very, very fundamental is that they claimed that the man, Wufuro, that he resigned from PDP. And they tendered a document which they call the letter of resignation, which was admitted in evidence. But now, you can see, as we demonstrated, that letter of resignation, which was completely an afterthought, was not signed.
It was impossible for him to have been sponsored by the All Progressive Congress without first resigning and vacating his office. If, on the other hand, he is purported to have resigned, then he ought to have vacated his seat. He never did. So for all intent and purposes, he remained a member of the PDP. And to that extent, he could not have been sponsored by the APC.
However, counsel to the APC candidate argues that his client was properly nominated by the APC and legitimately won the election.
The APC produced the present governor. He was a member and he was sponsored by him. We are saying that it does not lie in their mouth to tell us who is our member. We are the ones that sponsored. They said he was not validly sponsored. The Constitution does not talk about valid sponsorship. And that if he was a speaker and never vacated his position as speaker, he was elected by his colleagues, not elected because he was a PDP member. So that is our simple position. And they said it is the receipt was forged. Who forged the receipt? They can't tell us that our own membership cards and other things are forged. So that is our simple position.
Having adopted their written addresses, all eyes are now fixed on the Justice Ugumoyi three-man tribunal to deliver its judgments.
Well, let's head to Edo State, where the House of Assembly has distanced itself from the purported impeachment of the state's Deputy Governor, Mr. Philip Shaibu, which has been making the rounds recently. Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly, Blessing Agbebaku, disclosed this at the Government House, insisting that Governor Godwin Obaseki has never raised the issue with the House, adding that the Assembly itself had never contemplated removing the Deputy Governor at any point. The governor, on his part, says the impeachment saga is the least of his concerns at the moment and maintains that there are very pressing issues to deal with in the state.
Today, I want to let the Edo people know that there was nothing of such. I am the presiding officer of the House of Assembly. I control the gavel. The gavel is like the AK-47 of the House. There was no time that the governor has called me to inundate me to say there must be an impeachment against the deputy governor. I think that is a rumor from the pit of hell. I want to let Edo people know today that tomorrow the governor has not called me to say this must happen, the impeachment must happen. Next tomorrow is coming. I don't think he's going to say that to us. Because when I approached the governor, he told me, what is the impeachment for? What has the deputy governor done that they want to impeach him? That nothing like that. On my own, I also called the deputy governor to say, these are rumors. Please disassociate yourself with this kind of a rumor. The governor has no such plan.
I believe, and you will agree with me, that so much work is being done in Edo. And what the world should be hearing about are the positive things that are going on in the state. Not news about people making trouble or crisis in Edo. There's no crisis. No crisis in government. There's no crisis with the House of Assembly. So those who benefit from creating crisis, causing crisis, and reporting crisis should not be given an opportunity here. What should be of concern to us today is the crisis of the failure of federal roads in our states, which is almost incapacitating the state, and we are not able to move, or you are not able to go back to your various constituencies.
Following the reactions that have so far trailed the removal of petrol subsidy and its attendant effects on the citizens, the national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Abdullahi Ganduje, is optimistic that President Bola Tinubu has the capacity to reform Nigeria's economy. The chairman said this when he hosted members of the Southwest Agenda for Asiwaju, led by Senator Dayo Adeyeye, in his office at the party's national secretariat, Abuja.
After the closing prayers,
the day begins for the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress with a visit by members of the Southwest Agenda for Asiwaju, led by Senator Dayo Adeyeye, are here to pledge their support to the leadership of the party and President Bola Tinubu.
Our message to you, our national chairman, is to relay back to the president and for you to be confident, the national committee members to be confident that their nice swagger is still there, supporting Mr. President. And we will even go higher now to give that support.
Without mincing words, the national chairman of the party reaffirms his confidence in President Tinubu's ability to transform Nigeria.
We believe Asiwaju is equal to the task. We reform our system, reform the system of governance, reform the institutions, reform the economy, reform all other social issues that will take Nigeria to the next level.
So many appointments.
Members of the coalition of APC support groups and the Forum of State Houses of Assembly members also visited the party secretariat to pledge their support.
In line with our party renewed hope agenda, the coalition of support groups for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is hopeful that our members will be considered to serve in various capacities as appointments are being expected in coming months.
We came here to register ourselves, congratulate you, and also say that you should consider us because, say, a farmer who farms during farming season, when there is harvest, I'm sure he will go and harvest that which he has farmed. Is that not so?
The national chairman promises to run an all-inclusive administration while reaffirming his commitment to repositioning the party.
The party is no more longer a sleeping dog. This party is an active lion. We assure you we'll create activities so that we become alert throughout the year.
As the Independent National Electoral Commission prepares for the off-cycle elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states, the All Progressives Congress is optimistic of victory with the array of support by members of the party.
Away from politics, the parent company of your award-winning station, Channels Media Group, announces its entry into the business reality space with the launch of Fund It Forward, a competition show designed to nurture the next generation of social enterprises driven by Nigerian youths. This new social enterprise project, brought to you by Channels Television, explores a world where young innovators are increasingly attempting to bridge the gap between people and profits, with the burning question for Nigeria being, are these impact-driven business models scalable and sustainable here? Fund It Forward seeks to answer this question by putting 12 young social entrepreneurs to the test as they vie for a chance to secure significant grant funding and invaluable mentorship from esteemed socialpreneurs. Over the course of 8 intense elimination rounds, contestants must convince a seasoned judging panel that they possess the rare combination of innovation, heart, and business prowess necessary to succeed. The contestants at the heart of the adventure will be young, motivated Nigerians between the ages of 20 and 35 with early-stage social enterprise ventures. Fund It Forward is the brainchild of executive producer Zemi Momo, corporate social responsibility and social impact programming director at the Channels Media Group. Reflecting on the vast potential of Nigeria's youth, Ms. Momo says Nigeria has one of the world's largest youth populations, with about 70% of the country's population being under 30. Here we have a huge potential economic driver if we can just tap into the entrepreneurial and problem-solving spirit that is so evident in young Nigerians. In collaboration with Lighthouse Television and Filmworks, Fund It Forward is set to premiere on Channels Television in the last quarter of 2023. Eligible individuals are encouraged to apply by going to casting.funditforward.tv.
When you think of Nigeria, do you think of its potential? Then you might be who we're looking for. We want people in the business of doing good. People with startups or proofs of concept that directly or indirectly take on one or more of Nigeria's social issues. If you want to win a 30 million naira grant, expert mentorship, and access to an exclusive network of business leaders, apply now to be a contestant on our exciting new social enterprise competition show, Fund It Forward. Go to www.funditforward.tv for more details on the show and on how to apply. Fund It Forward, a Channels original series.
What are you waiting for? In part two, after the break, senior advocate of Nigeria and rights activist Mr. Femi Falana faults federal government's policy to float the naira, describes it as illegal. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Barely 3 months to the off-cycle elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states, Progressive Governors Forum converged on Abuja to perfect plans for the exercise as they meet with party's national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje. Ebonyi State Governorship Election Tribunal reserves judgment in the petition filed by the candidates of the PDP and APGA against the election of Governor Francis Nwifuru. Good times await social entrepreneurs as Channels Media Group launches Fund It Forward, a business reality show designed to nurture the next generation of social enterprises driven by Nigerian youth. And Maui's emergency management chief quits after his agency's failure to activate its alarm system and the Hawaii wildfires that left over 100 people dead. And human rights lawyer Mr. Femi Falana has faulted the decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria to float the naira, describing it as illegal. The senior advocate of Nigeria, who was a guest on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily, warned that the economy will remain comatose as long as government does not take steps to strengthen the naira and make it the only legal tender in the country.
The Central Bank says we want to float the naira. And the implication is that floating a currency is anchored on supply and demand. We do not supply dollars because the only product that really earns dollar is oil. And the bulk of it now, a lot of oil is stolen. So the government will have to try. How do we stop stealing of oil? Nigeria is the only oil-producing country. We are big-time thieves steal oil. Two, why should we allow any transaction in Nigeria right, to be valued in dollars in your country. And I'm saying, under the law, the legal tender in Nigeria are the currency notes issued by the central bank. And there's no amendment to that law. So I'm not talking politics, I'm talking law. So, and I've challenged the central bank. For 45 years, we have been told by these imperialist institutions, the naira is overvalued. So they have been devaluing the currency through dollarization. So the Bank of America recently said the naira is now undervalued. But the guys in the central bank are still devaluing the currency. The naira is looking for its value. I beg your pardon. When I was an undergraduate, the exchange rate was 60 kobo to a dollar. Today, it is about 1,000 naira to a dollar. Except we are told the central bank has now looked for $3 billion. Is it the business of the central bank NNPC to run the central bank?
Well, staying with Mr. Femi Falana, who on the same program alleged that the management of the Nigerian Maritime and Safety Agency, NMASA, purchased 3 properties in England. In a statement by the Assistant Director of Public Relations of NMASA, Osage Edward, the agency has asked the Senior Advocate of Nigeria to retract his claim made during the interview on Channels Television. NMASA describes the allegation as false, explaining that it has not acquired any property in any foreign country in over 30 years. It urged the public to disregard the comment by the lawyer. And we're off to the nation's capital for more stories. Terakumi, is TGIF Day?
It is indeed. Well, the United Nations says assistance is on the way for 6 million people in northern Nigeria and other parts of the country through the 2023 Humanitarian Response Plan, HRP. This was announced by the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for Nigeria, Mr. Matthias Schmale, during the commemoration of this year's World Humanitarian Day in Abuja, the nation's capital. The UN coordinator also is calling for protection for humanitarian workers, especially those serving in the Northeast region.
This year's World Humanitarian Day began with a solidarity walk in honor of aid workers who step up each day to provide life-saving assistance to millions of people in different parts of Nigeria. This year's theme for the World Humanitarian Day, it's about the unwavering commitment of countless individuals to deliver for and with the communities they serve. Those participating in the walk carried placards with this year's theme, #NoMatterWhat. Humanitarian aid workers are constantly at risk and in present danger occasioned by the insurgency and farmers-herders clashes. According to the Aid Worker Security Database, since 2016, 37 aid workers have been killed in northeastern Nigeria, with an additional 24 wounded and 34 kidnapped. The UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for Nigeria, Mr. Matthias Schmale, speaks on the situation of humanitarian workers who are constantly caught in the crossfire.
Humanitarian aid workers should all be kept safe, whether they are Nigerians or internationals. So, of course, I call publicly on behalf of the international community and in close coordination with government, not only for the release of those still being held captive, being kidnapped, but for safety of all humanitarian workers.
The Permanent Secretary of Humanitarian Affairs, Mr. Nasiru Gwazo, outlines the ministry's plans to navigate the incessant crisis and provide assistance to those communities most hit by attacks.
The strategies that we are evolving in resolving those challenges, they are multifaceted, and we have multiple partnerships with various agencies and ministries. And even in the ministry, we have about 8 programs that are channeling support in different ways to communities to alleviate those sufferings. And we are not only doing that now, we have a robust database that enables us to predict patterns that will evolve in the future.
This year's World Humanitarian Day commemoration aims to advocate for the survival, well-being, and dignity of crisis-affected people and the safety and security of aid workers facing ever-increasing risk in the line of duty. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Well, security agencies have been tasked to explore dialogue, maintain, respect, and protect human rights of civilians in troubled areas in Zamfara State and northwest Nigeria. These formed the crux of discussions between security agencies and community leaders on civil-military cooperation and civilian protection in Gusau, the Zamfara State capital.
This exercise is to train frontline security agencies, human rights stakeholders, the judiciary and state lawmakers on civil-military relations, conflict prevention, respect for human rights, and protection of civilians to better handle incidents of banditry, kidnapping, and armed robbery in the Northwest Zone. These incidents of insecurity have resulted in the death of many, displacement of thousands, and kidnap of many others, whose families pay ransom before they're released, while communities have also suffered collateral damage during military operations to nip the menace in the bud, creating mistrust.
One of the rationales for having this training is that we saw the necessity growing rise in human rights abuse in various states, saying the various kind of conflicts and insurgencies we have in the state. We saw that there's a need to actually have civilian protection at the core of what we do. One is to actually equip the stakeholders, especially security agencies, with the right knowledge on how to actually engage civilians once they have these actually situations that occur and may arise in the state.
In Nigeria, we have many laws. We have more than enough laws. The only issue is compliance or enforcement of those laws. So whatever we are doing, we have to comply with the provisions of our laws, and that will tackle the problem.
The Zamfara state government is also not resting on its oars to end the insecurity. It is putting in place legislation to equip the military through the State House of Assembly.
Zamfara State is seriously challenged with security issues. So we are trained how to manage this security situation in the state.
The consensus here is that it is important to be careful and professional in carrying out the various responsibilities and share credible intelligence with security agencies. If Zamfara State and Nigeria must succeed in resolving all forms of security challenges bedeviling the nation.
Well, still ahead on the news at 10, over 11,500 CNG-enabled cars are expected to be manufactured locally as President Tinubu approves the establishment of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative. That's in business news. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. President Tinubu has affirmed that natural gas is Nigeria's gateway to sustainable development and prosperity. In a meeting with the board and management of the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Limited at the State House, President Tinubu affirmed that all encumbrances to the entrepreneurial progress and development of Nigeria's industrial citizens, as well as any further impediments to business practice in the oil and gas sector specifically, will be swiftly removed. The NLNG delegation was led by the board chairman, His Royal Majesty King Edmund Dokuru of Nembe Kingdom, and the NLNG Managing Director, Dr. Philip Shalbila.
The visit was supposed to be a courtesy call, but you don't come to see Mr. President and not use the opportunity fully to also deal with other issues. And of course, to get the economy moving again is one of the top priorities of the program of this administration. So we, from our own part, discussed issues that are related to reviving the economy. For us, just two words will describe it: security and gas supply. They go together. Handle security, that will unlock more gas to plants. We can produce at a higher capacity, and we make more revenue. We pay our taxes, huge amounts of taxes, and dividend declarations. All that will have an upshot if we can tackle those two major problems.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian NLNG Limited has described as false reports making the rounds in some quarters that its NLNG plant has been shut down, thereby threatening gas production. I beg your pardon. A statement by the company's General Manager, External Relations and Sustainable Development, Mr. Andy Ode, described the report as misleading. The statement reads that NLNG's operations at its plant on Ebonyi Island are still active despite a force majeure which still subsists due to the unavailability of upstream gas supplies, major liquids evacuation pipelines occasioned by sabotage and vandalism. NLNG reiterates that the plant continues to produce LNG and LPG commensurate to feed gas it receives from its upstream gas supplies, just as its cargo landing operation also continues without interruption. Mr. Ode explains further that the latest cargo from the Ebonyi plant sailed just yesterday, that's August the 17th, 2023, saying the NLNG remains committed to collaborating with key stakeholders to minimize the impact of the consequent gas supply shortage. And that's all from the nation's capital. Back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Terry. The efforts to protect the country's marine resources gets a big boost as the Nigerian Navy hands over 6 personnel carrier patrol boats to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Department of Fishery and Aquaculture. At the handing over ceremony, the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, says the gesture is part of a collaboration to address the issue of illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing activities on our coastal waters. Our correspondent Chris Lambs reports.
This meeting is a demonstration of the strategic partnership between the Nigerian Navy and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. With the country believed to be losing as much as $70 million annually to unregulated, unreported and illegal fishing, it has become imperative to pay some attention towards tackling the menace. A reason the Navy has built some personnel carrier patrol boats for the Ministry of Agriculture.
I'm indeed grateful to the Almighty God for allowing us to witness this epoch-making occasion, which marks the conclusion of the contract to build the boats for the Ministry of Agriculture.
The addition of these 6 personnel carrier glass-reinforced plastic patrol boats has been viewed as a significant step towards combating this illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing activities within the country's coastal waters. The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, is here represented by his Deputy Chief of Staff. He says coastal states have suffered the brunt of IUU fishing.
The state government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, held a series of engagements with state fishermen association and fishermen groups across fishing communities on the danger of IUU and obnoxious fishing practices.
According to the Chief of Naval Staff, this is a landmark moment when it comes to cooperation between the Nigerian Navy and strategic ministries, departments and agencies.
As far back as the early 90s, when we were young officers, we have witnessed occasions where Chinese vessels and other foreign vessels are arrested in our waters, not only engaging in large-scale fishing, but exporting them, packaging them there and exporting them without authorization, without any revenue to the federal government.
The carrier boats will be distributed to 4 coastal states, including Lagos, Rivers, Cross River, and Akwa Ibom, where increased cases of illegal fishing activities have been reported. Chris Lambs, Channels Television News.
It's now time for business news. Here's Anne Nwaldo.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the establishment of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative called PCNGI. According to a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngelale, The initiative is part of his commitment to easing the impact of fuel subsidy removal on Nigerians by reducing energy costs. The transformative initiative, according to the statement, is poised to revolutionize the transportation landscape in Nigeria, targeting over 11,500 new CNG-enabled vehicles and 55,000 CNG conversion kits for existing PMS-dependent vehicles, while simultaneously bolstering in-country manufacturing, local assembly, and expansive job creation in line with the presidential directive. The landmark initiative will include empowering workshop programs with nationwide network of workshops, local assembly, and job creation as key points of emphasis, with an initial focus on mass transit systems and student hubs to significantly reduce transit costs for the general public in the immediate term. Nigeria's central bank has unveiled a series of fresh operational guidelines for forex sale by bureau de change operators in the country. This is coming more than 2 years after the suspended CBN governor announced a suspension of foreign exchange sales to BDC operators in that segment of the forex market. Under this new framework, the spread on buying and selling of BDC operators is set to fall within a permissible range of 2.5% to plus 2.5% of the Nigerian foreign exchange market window's weighted average rate from the previous day. This move is also expected to provide more stability and transparency to exchange rate fluctuations, ultimately benefiting both BDC operators and the public. Meanwhile, the central bank has issued an advisory note on the illegal activities of financial operators in the country in an effort to guide the general public against falling victim of Ponzi scheme operators and loan sharks. While raising concerns about the increasing rate of illegal financial operators, the CBN released a statement on its website explaining that the activities of IFOs portend a grave risk to the country's financial system. Meanwhile, the Apex Bank, through its Financial Services Regulation and Coordinating Committee, has asked the general public to refrain from dealing with unlicensed or illegal financial operators who lure and defraud unsuspecting members of the public by offering extraordinary returns on investments. And outside our shores, China's property giant Evergrande has filed a bankruptcy protection case in the U.S. as the real estate crisis in the world's second biggest economy deepens. And this move is coming as problems in China's property market has added great concern about the country's economy, as some of the biggest companies in the real estate market are now struggling to find the money to complete development. Just last week, another major Chinese property giant, Country Garden, warned that it could see a loss of up to $7.6 billion for the first 6 months of this year. The company defaulted on its huge debts in the year 2021, with its estimate at more than $300 billion. It sends shockwaves through global financial markets. And from there to the cryptocurrency market, where prices remained under pressure to the end of this week. According to Coinmetrics, the world's biggest and most popular digital asset, Bitcoin, was lowest by nearly 8% at $25,702.2 thousand. Well, this is coming as a huge fall that began late on Thursday pulled other crypto market assets lower, following a report that Elon Musk's SpaceX already wrote down the value of its Bitcoin holding by $373 million last year. That was in 2021, and it also sold the cryptocurrency that year. Bitcoin is down more than 11.5% for the week and on pace for its 7th weekly loss in the past 8 and its worst week since November last year. Well, back home to the domestic market, let's see how it fared today. It recorded its first and only gain for this week at the close of trade. Let's hear the good news from Ini John Mekwa.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. I'm happy to say it's the first time that the bull is out this week. Well, the oil share index gained. It's the first time we're seeing a green on the oil share index at 0.42%, even though we have not regained at 65,000, still at 64 there. For the market cap, we're still cruising at 35 trillion there. Safe place for us, at least for now. And this positive sentiment we see is thanks to Dangote Cement. The stock gained 10 naira, 10 kobo to close at 360 naira. And in value of trade today, it moved around 871.16 million. Dangote Cement did that. Let's also look at the top trade. FBN Holdings stands out today. You look at the money it moved around in the market, more than 4 billion, in fact, almost 5 billion. And this is in spite of the controversy still going on around its AGM, the court order, and all of that. And investors are still attracted to it. Dangote Cement, we know, moved the market. GT Co, profit-taking is still on it. So it was profit-taking that put it on the top trade. So this is a summary of the week. 4 days of red trade, 1 day of a green one. But we'll live for better tomorrow, next week. That's the stock market report. Back to you, Anne.
For watching, I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent. Have a wonderful weekend.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Anne. The emergency management chief of Hawaii's Maui Island, Herman Andaya, has resigned amid criticisms from local residents and media on the island's response to the wildfires. Here's Simon Pewter with more on this and other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
The sirens, as I had mentioned earlier.
Maui's emergency management chief has quit a day after defending his agency's failure to activate its alarm system in last week's fatal wildfire.
The public is trained to seek higher ground in the event that the siren is sounded. In fact,
Herman Andaya, who had no prior experience in emergency management, cited health reasons for resigning. In the days since, residents of the Hawaii island have said a stronger emergency response could have saved more lives. At least 111 people have been declared dead. More than 1,000 people remain missing. There are more than 1,000 wildfires currently active across Canada in the country's worst fire season on record. Authorities are battling fires across the country, from British Columbia in the west to Quebec in the east. Residents of Yellowknife in the Northwest Territory have been ordered to evacuate as a fire 15 kilometres from the town approaches. Nearby towns are also under evacuation orders, with more than 240 fires active in the territory. The city of Kelowna in British Columbia is under a state of emergency. Thousands of residents there have also been given evacuation orders. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has cut short a holiday to meet with emergency services.
When you see all this, I honestly want to get out of here.
It's quite scary because with the smoke, of course, it's actually lightened up a little bit, but the smoke was very, very thick this morning. And so, I mean, it's not a good situation, that's for sure.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights says there is no legal basis for Niger's military junta to prosecute the deposed president, Mohamed Bazoum, for high treason, saying the very notion of freedoms in the country was at stake. The military junta, which seized power in a coup last month, said it would prosecute Bazoum for high treason over his exchanges with foreign heads of state and international organizations, prompting condemnation from the United States and West African leaders.
This decision is not only politically motivated against a democratically elected president, but it has no legal basis, as the normal functioning of democratic institutions has been cast aside. The High Commissioner said the recent pattern of unconstitutional changes in government by military forces in West Africa, the Niger push is the 6th in the region in the past 3 years, is deeply troubling. And the costs are always borne by the local population.
An official has said at least 1,400 people have been starved to death in Ethiopia's northern Tigray since food aid was suspended because it was being stolen. The UN's World Food Programme and the US's leading aid agency halted food aid to Tigray about 4 months ago. A subsequent investigation by Tigrayan authorities found that almost 500 people were involved in the theft. Officials in the US state of Georgia are investigating online threats made against members of the grand jury that indicted Donald Trump. Personal information, including the addresses and photos of the jurors, were shared on right-wing platforms. Fulton County Sheriff's Office said it was aware of the threats and was trying to track down those behind them. The names of jurors were published in the indictment, a routine practice in Georgia. A UK nurse has been found guilty of murdering 7 babies, making her the UK's most prolific killer of babies in modern times. Lucy Letby, here seen being arrested by police, killed the babies by injecting them with air between June 2015 and June 2016 when she was working at the Countess of Chester Hospital. She has also been found guilty of attempting to murder another 6 babies. The jury was undecided on the attempted murder of a further 4 babies. The 33-year-old, originally from Hereford, denied all 22 charges against her, blaming the deaths on hospital hygiene and staffing levels. And India's space agency has released the latest images of the moon as its 3rd lunar mission starts descending towards the little-explored South Pole. The pictures have been taken by Vikram Chandrayaan 3's lander, which began the last phase of the mission on Thursday. Vikram, which carries a rover in its belly, is due to land near the South Pole on the 23rd of August. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. It's now time for sports news. Here's Jeffrey Ozono.
Thanks, Millicent. And let me begin with this exciting news from the NPFL as the league board has announced a partnership deal with La Liga that will see the best 11 players at the end of the season embark on a tour of a Spanish La Liga across that country. Chairman of the board, Benga Elegbele, revealed that the All-Star squad will travel to Spain for 2 weeks to play friendly games with top La Liga clubs.
You know, we had, at the NPL board, we had an agreement with a La Liga club, one of the clubs in Spain. So I was there and I spoke with them and I discussed with them. They said they will be very ready to host the best of our Premier League players in Spain, and they will give free accommodation. So I believe we can be responsible for how they get there. I believe this will help our league, this will help our players, and at the end of the day, we'll be able to have those guys as Team B of the Super Eagles, so that also in the Guavon we know that at least there's a back, a certain team that can play Shan, to know that you can have a team from the league that can go and represent us without moving around.
Now, outside Nigeria, the FIFA Women's World Cup will finally come to a close on Sunday, but the world's football governing body has described it as the best tournament so far. FIFA President Gianni Infantino is excited because the tournament has generated over $550 or $70 million in revenue and enabled the football house to break even despite raising the price purse tenfold compared to the edition in 2015.
Ready for grab. Some voices were raised, well, it costs too much, we don't make enough revenues, we'll have to subsidize. And our opinion was, well, if we have to subsidize, we'll subsidize, because we have to do that. But actually, this World Cup generated over $570 million in revenues. We didn't lose any money, and we generated the second highest income of any sport besides, of course, the men World Cup at global stage. There are not many competitions, even in men's football, who generate more than $500 million.
And sometimes I wonder whether there will be any time this would have happened, but it's happening right live in football across the world. Infantino defending the hosting of the Women's World Cup. Let's move on now. The stage is set for tomorrow's third place playoff between co-hosts Australia and Sweden at Brisbane Lang Park. The co-hosts trashed Sweden 4-0 in Melbourne last November and will meet again in a crucial bronze medal match, as you can see on our screen right here. Australia will be without centre-back Alana Kennedy for a second straight match due to concussion symptoms. Now, 40 years after its first edition, the World Athletics Championships get underway in Budapest tomorrow, Saturday, with over 2,000 athletes from over 200 countries taking part in about 9 days of what could be record-breaking action. Launched initially as a 4-yearly event, the championship switched to a biennial format in 1993 so as not to undermine the Olympics. And owing to COVID-19, it takes place for a second consecutive year following the 2022 edition in the United States. Let's head to the course. Novak Djokovic has extended his dominance over Gael Monfils by defeating the Frenchman 6-3, 6-2 at the Cincinnati Open after his second set retirement by Alejandro Davidovich. Fokina handed Djokovic a win in his first match on American soil since 2021. Djokovic played 2 solid sets to dismiss Monfils, dominating the baseline rallies in a 1-hour, 8-minute victory.
Game and first set, Djokovic.
All eyes on the weekend. Millicent, is back to you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And the main news again. Barely 3 months to the off-cycle elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states, members of the Governors Forum, Progressive Governors Forum, met in Abuja to perfect plans for the exercise. They met with the party's national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje. Also today, the Ebonyi State Governorship Election Tribunal reserved judgment in the petition filed by the candidates of the PDP and ABGA against the election of Governor Francis Nwifuru. We also told you that good times are here for social entrepreneurs as Channels Media Group launches Fund It Forward, a business reality show designed to nurture the next generation of social enterprises driven by Nigerian youths. You can apply, if you're eligible, to casting.funditforward.tv. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and a great weekend.